what you're going to see now and what you're going to experience now, you probably think it takes ages of years of planning. No. This is when I prepared this short roundtable talk. I sent out the questions last night, and what I didn't know until the last 15 minutes that we have a presentation. I knew that there was a presentation by Nick called Spinning Plates, which I hadn't looked at, and I took the opportunity of, because I was early, because I didn't walk. I looked at the presentation, and I think it's the most wonderful opening of this particular discussion, because everything I wanted to talk about is already in the presentation. So, nevertheless, but we will discuss it because there are some points in it where you can ask questions and sort of ask about the subtexts that are behind what Nick is saying. So, what we're going to do now is watch the presentation. It's going to take about 7 minutes.
6 minutes.
6 minutes.
And there is a typo on one of the slides, and I have a problem with the word success.
Yes.
I've chosen the title Spinning Plates because I think it best describes what we have to do. That means trying to do a lot of things at the same time in a way that we try and maximize our own potential. Spinning plates. If we work at a university or any other institute of higher education, the good thing about it is we're working generally in a stable, solid environment, although nowadays it's not always the case. And I think that's all the more important why we sometimes have to look at business and try and develop this agility in order to face the challenges more effectively. We've all had to become multitaskers, and I think what we try to do is enjoy this task and this challenge. The first area that I think we have to build up our first plate, if you like, spinning, is the world of academia, our academic remit. It means that if you can be part of this area, whether it's a course that's assessed formally as part of a degree, it does mean that you're up there alongside the departments and the faculties and saying, look, what we offer is something worthwhile, it's important, it's part of a degree of economics or engineering, and it's something that really shows that what we do has an academic perspective. It's worthwhile doing. And it also means, for funding purposes, that it should be funded directly. But the main thing that we provide is a service. And I would say that departments and faculties provide a service as well. But the service that we do provide and we share are language courses for thousands of students in a range of languages and at a range of levels. This is what we do on a day in and day out basis, and it's our bread and butter. And sometimes these courses can be developed alongside courses in employability, in intercultural communication. But the point is, we cover and touch a huge area of the student population. Support, my third plate, is important. It connects with the other two and connects throughout. In the UK, support is very focused on the way that we support international students. English for academic purposes is a huge area, particularly in sessional programs. And we've also looked into the areas of helping with teacher training. The point is that the way we support, well, we do that on a day-to-day basis. We're multicultural, we're multinational, and we know the needs and the necessity of how to mix things up in a positive way. Applied research. Now, language centres don't have the same cachet as a full academic department, or so we're told. But the point is, our research into pedagogy, into teacher training, means that our teaching is informed, and it does help our standard of delivery. But there are also ways we can do projects, European projects that connect up with the field of humanities and social sciences. All these show that we have a part in showing the impact that languages have on our communities, social integration, and the whole way that a university will internationalize itself. Income generation. For UK universities and a lot of other countries, this is vital. If we don't take an active part in it and get it right, we're actually going to be struggling. Struggling in the sense that what we receive from our universities often only covers the basic costs, and that we use income generation, if we can keep some of the profit, to really make sure we can raise our standards. But the point is, it's about our profile. Certainly, we're going to show that we're not just receiving money, we can also create it and actually contribute to the university. Finally, outreach. That's working with schools, that's working with the local community. I find it very, very important. Anyway, school children are the students of the future, and if you can actually get the message over to them that languages are important, well, I think we're actually doing a very good job. And I think it's also very important for language centres that we really get the message over. It's not about doing language degrees. Language learning can continue way after it ends at school. So finally, these are my 6 plates, these 6 areas of activity, remits: academic, service, support, income generation, applied research and outreach. I think it's important to keep all 6 plates spinning. Sometimes you can get more money for one particular plate, some one area of activity, but the point is, having those areas covered really does help to ensure success. If you want to get some more information about this, my final slide shows my contact details. Thank you very much.
Okay, this is Wukow 7, January 2015, and I'm Thomas Vogel, and I'm joined by my illustrious colleagues from Poland, Liliana Szukadana from the Technical University, or the University of Technology rather, from Poznan in Poland, from Aalto University in Helsinki, Heidi Rontu, if I pronounce it correctly, okay, and from the London School of Economics of something, Nick Burns. Now Nick, and I think it's what we've just seen is I think one of the most comprehensive description of the remit of a language center I've ever actually seen, and of course the most lively anyway. When you mentioned I think the 5, you were talking about 6 remits, okay? Academic, service, support, income generation, applied research and outreach. I have a suspicion, because you mentioned academic as the first point. What I would like to talk and discuss with you is the perception of language centers in academia. And this very much relates to what you said about sort of the academicness of a language center. And I fear that in the scene that we see here, in the language center scene in Europe, there's a rift between the perception of language centers that we have and our staff might have and the people around us, the stakeholders, the academic institutions within our institutions, like faculty, like institutes, and also between us and the students. Whereas, let's say, the academic institutions, the academics in our university, probably see us more on the side of administration rather than on the academic side. The students who themselves see, who see themselves as customers, probably see us more on the side of a language school, of a school, and just coincidentally, because it's there, it's more convenient actually to take language courses with us, they don't go to Berlitz or any other school that is available. So the academicness, I think, is at issue here. We ourselves tend to see, most of our staff tend to see as themselves as academics, and we think we belong to the academic world, we belong to the academic culture. My question is, do you experience, is that a problem or a challenge for your institutions, for your colleagues, for your staff? And secondly, if it is a challenge, if there is a rift, how do you actually build bridges across this, let's say, canyon of tears? Liliana.
Yes. Well, I would say that it started some years ago. The Polish way of my unit was Studium Języków Obcych, which, if I translate it into English, it would be Department of Foreign Languages. We discussed it yesterday, so what it means foreign languages. So we tried to go into maybe modern languages, because we don't teach Latin, so modern languages for engineering. But 3 years ago I started talking with my rector and deans about changing our name, because of changing of the function of the department, and now we are called Center of Languages and Communication. Some people joked a few years ago, because communication as a transport is a field of study at one of the faculties, so it was a kind of joke. What are you going to teach? Are you going to teach transportation to our students? But suddenly it appeared that in Poland, I think since 2012, there has been a very important stress put on skills. Skills which engineering students should have, apart their technical knowledge, skills like presentation skills, negotiation skills, different sort of language skills, but connected with more ESP teaching than general English. So the name of my center, Center of Languages and Communication, appeared to be a very good point for discussion. I think that I'm quite lucky to say that the position of language center at my university is quite high. This time it's me who is in the Senate of university, where all official decisions should be made through voting. Okay, so it's really academia in terms of importance. And there is something behind that. If you talk to professors, Thomas knows, some people, some of you know the situation at my university. They're quite well equipped with the knowledge what is A1, B1, B2. Again, through joking, maybe sometimes through very soft presentation, what's the purpose of teaching languages at a certain level is. I would say that smoothly I could introduce some points which are very important for us teachers of languages. So just to give you a floor, I would say that the change of the name and new roles, apart from teaching languages, introducing especially modules at the second cycle for students, opened a new perspectives for my staff. We are 72 people working full-time, plus freelancers, so it's a huge amount of staff in terms of problems, but also challenges, because we have a lot of people who got, for example, double diploma, so they are linguists, but also they are engineers, they graduated from economy, they got a different qualification, and what is a quite new thing, we introduced at our center also CLIL, so it's content language integrated learning, and we are used by faculties to deliver in a very good language, English mainly and German, courses called Introduction to Management, Marketing Research, blah, 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 okay, not to talk about details. So my picture is quite positive. Of course, not everything is ideal. We are not living in an ideal world, but I think it's better than worse, okay?
So can I just ask a question? So you said that renaming actually also meant changing of the mentality?
Yes, giving new responsibilities to the language center. If you go to my university, sometimes you may hear a joke. Dean's telling, okay, before we want to introduce something, we have to ask Liliana, can we do it? Okay, so and it's fun, ha ha ha, okay? Because sometimes you ask yourself, this is the way what is going to happen. Sometimes, especially when we talk about studies in English. Now we run 9 courses, Master of Science courses, fully in English, and I don't have to tell you how much help is given by my teachers, okay? Because they're professional in writing, they're professional in many courses, so we are a real help to faculties. It's not a miracle. It doesn't happen, I mean, it didn't happen like that, because we would have to spend hours talking what happened and when was for the first time I talked to people, to authorities, and also what I mentioned here when we had just talks during the breaks. A very important issue in my university, and I think in all Polish universities, Anya can support me, is not the regulation which comes from higher education, Ministry of Higher Education, but this is the attitude, understanding of the topics of languages, multi-plural, whatever, understanding by president or rector, faculty, authorities, and we are quite lucky because our president is a Humboldt Scholarship winner. He went to America a few times, so speaking languages is not a problem for him. He understands when I talk to him about why our students, potential engineers, should be equipped with not only technical knowledge but also language competences, okay? So maybe it's easy for me because I have such president, and maybe if I had another one it would be different, but I would say that it is okay. For changing the name of my department helped my staff. In December we had a workshop training at Thomas Biedrzyna University. 20 people, teachers of English, came here. So we had an opportunity in Wukow to talk about that. So more or less the problems we have, we share with Thomas people, okay, Thomas teachers. But you could see that changing the name, it's not only a department, a small unit. It's not a small unit anymore because comparably we can compare the number of working staff is more or less institute at one of the faculties, okay? And again, the role is to, at the first cycle, to equip all students. In a week time they're going to take final exam, which is at level B2. And during the second and third cycle to equip with the knowledge of extra modules which we provide. So again, it's a challenging job for my teachers as well. It's not as obvious that all wanted to be involved in that, because it's easy to teach, let's say, general English, instead teach English for architects, mechanical engineers, etc. But it took some time, and now we are quite well organized, I would say.
Okay, thank you very much. Aalto University, as far as I understand, you can correct me if I'm wrong, is basically, or has started as a University of Arts and Design, is that?
Well, University of Technology, Business, Art and Design.
Yeah, which are very practically, oriented and skill-oriented subjects.
Yes.
Is it easier for a language center to blend into such an environment?
Well, first of all, I would like to say that the perception, let's put it this way, as a director of language center, I wouldn't put too much energy into thinking about the external perception of the language center. I would focus on the quality of what we do at the language center, the development of the language center. I talk about research engagement, which is what Nick just brought up here, for being able to perform so that, so to say, we don't need to worry about the perception of the language center. And I think what Liliana just told us here is a good example of what I also think the director's role is. You need to be proactive, you need to market your center, you need to be looking for new ways of finding even more need for your language center within your university. That's where, that's where I put my energy and effort, and it's very much about networking, what Liliana was pointing out. That you're well connected, you take care of your networking within your university, and I'm sure you will, as I have seen, for instance, in my own job, gradually see the results of your positive networking. I think we have nothing to gain from complaining about that there's a negative perception of the language center. That just takes your energy, it doesn't really give you anything.
Thank you very much. Nick, academicness at LSE. Hard job, isn't it?
I think the great thing about being at LSE is that it allows you to do really what you want to do. But there are a couple of big ifs. I mean, I've been at LSE for 16 years now, and I took over after a period where there had been a Department of Languages and Linguistics. It had been turned into a language studies centre. But the people never really forgave LSE for demoting them, because that's how they saw it. It was holding on to one sad degree that they called their own, called a BSc in Russian Studies. And I remember having to run this degree out, and it had about 6 people on it. And I said, what exactly do it's running out? I said, well, you have to help choose the people studying the actual language part, because it was 25% of the degree was language. And I said, well, what's the entry point, the level entry point? I went, anything you want. And I remember sitting on the panel, and it had absolute beginners, fluent speakers, anything in between. And it was like, sorted. And I just thought, completely this amazing institution that had this academic rigor, and they're all about it, they've got great minds, it doesn't matter about the language. And I just thought, warning sign 1. Warning sign 2 was, if you don't make this work, we're closing it down, and we're outsourcing it to King's, which does focus the mind rather sharply. Thirdly, what I actually saw was an interesting, really divide how that came up. That we had degree options that were like quarter of a degree. So that's quite a big chunk, you know, and it could be for any year. Generally, most people, first 2 years. It had a range of language courses. They were free in the evening. Not that many people doing it, about 100. Remember, it's 8,000 people, students at LSE those days. About 20 people doing a degree option. There was a little bit of English for academic purposes, but they had like about 40 in a class. A little bit of income generation, pre-sessionals. A little bit of serious research in literature and linguistics, and not really any outreach to schools. And I just thought, well, those were the areas, and I just sort of thought, well, that's what I've got to work with. And for me, why the academic, in a sense, comes first, well, begins with A, I hadn't really thought about that, was I had a bee in my bonnet. I was annoyed about this. And I thought, this is a really great idea, having the opportunity of doing 25% of your degree in a language. And it grew from the 20 in 1999, 2000. We've got nearly 400. And that is a huge leap of faith. And I remember when I did that first move, in about 2 or 3 years in, that one of the pro-vice chancellors said, well, you've done a really good job. It's not what we were hoping you would do. We were hoping you'd close that down and you'd just become a service unit. And, you know, I didn't. So that's why I had a challenge, because I know that I have no problem being a service. Because, in fact, as I said in that voiceover, academic departments, don't kid yourselves, darlings, you're a service unit as well. You provide degrees, you provide masters. You don't like to think of it in that way, but you do. Students come, pay money, they learn, that's a service. And so I've got no problems with that. It's just the fact that we all have issues in our own institutions, and we've also got to play the game of what works in your particular institution. And for me, having that, it's a quarter of a degree, means that it's a hybrid unit. I sit alongside heads of academic departments. I'm part of that forum. They change every 5 years. I go on forever. I'm there like sort of Joan Rivers basically now, sort of on sofa. I see them come, I see them go, I see them come back after their 2-year sabbaticals. But also I sit alongside service divisions. So yeah, I'm alongside the library, I'm alongside academic registry. So I've got twice as many meetings, but then I've got twice as much sort of talking power as well. It works for me, that's why.
Okay. I think what I find interesting, and actually, it came to my mind that the universities represented here, and this would actually include me, are universities without philology departments.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
That's the...
And I think that is, again, a different world, because it's usually the philology departments which actually compete with the language center. And we had situations in Germany, not at my university, where the language assistants or the Lektoren were supposed to work rather for the language center, or where actually the reorganization, when they reorganized structures, then they thought, well, why not the language center actually deal with everything to do with language teaching? And it was actually the language assistants, the Lektoren, which heavily resisted that restructuring because they didn't want to belong to a language center. And one of the major, let's say, arguments was, then we're no longer academics. Maybe let's open up the discussion to the young colleagues. What piece of advice would you give them in order to help them putting their own language language center in the middle of the institutions? Nick?
I think it's knowing your market, knowing what the students at your institution want, knowing what, it sounds terribly client-based, I know, but bear with me for it. If you know what the students want, but also if you can guess what they might want and might need that they don't want, but we're the experts so that we can do that. You know how your institution works, you know how key friends and enemies in other departments work, and you keep the enemies even closer to you than the friends. You really do use the fact that you can work up and down with senior management, that people I know in language centres can have, unless it goes horribly wrong, almost a charmed life, that you can cross barriers. You can schmooze in areas that other departments, you're not asking for the same things sometimes. Sometimes the funding is available that's not a funding to other departments. It depends on your institution. So I would say, get to know your students, get to know your fellow colleagues, academics, get to know the senior management and get to know how the university works. And then really make sure that your centre is aligned to that.
Thank you very much. Haley?
Networking, that's what Nick was describing also. I would put it in one word, networking, and also this being in your networking and in how you want to develop your language centre, trying to have a very proactive touch to your work, trying to foresee what's coming. Yeah.
Okay.
Your piece of advice.
I would say that Nick, Heidi, plus try to find a place for yourself, a language center specialized in a field which is interesting for you. Talk to people from a given faculty, because in our case we teach languages for specific purposes. So if you find architecture is a topic you really like, you want to do something extra, go talk to people, read a lot of specialized literature, and in a way you're becoming an expert. This is a part of CLIL. But still, I think it's a part of teaching in English or German or other languages. Develop and try to think about lifelong learning, which is go to take postgraduate studies. Networking is not only talking to our colleagues, fellows, but trying to attend conferences. Be open-minded, don't forget about Wukow, but there are any other places in the world where very nice and very good, good level conferences you can participate, and this is a constant lifelong learning process. I think that as a teacher, because we all we do the same, we still learn a lot, okay, from our colleagues from different places. So this is a kind of never-ending story, but that's our life.
Thank you very much. I'm sharing a very optimistic view of Ray.
Yes.
As far as the Future Language Centers is concerned, for two reasons. One of the reasons is that our outlook, actually, on life on the world is better informed than the outlook on life and the world around of most academics. One has to say this, because we continuously have to bridge the gap between reality and academia. And I think that leads us to a different role, but also is our strength. And as Liliana was saying, I think I'm very optimistic, because what she said basically, if I may sum it up, it depends on your personality. And looking around here, I'm not worried about the future of Language Center. So thank you very much, everybody.